This conference will now be recorded.
So people can put chat.
Yeah, we put it up.
Here's to start this for posting online. Are you ready for that?
I guess we are.
It's on.
Oh,
Okay.
well, I'll start this. I'm gonna bet. I'm gonna bet they
Hi there.
make us,
Good afternoon. I guess we're online and ready to go.
bet they're gonna change that to, we're gonna have to work on that. There's-
Does he have it on screen?
There's a bunch of stuff that's just blast and open right now. Here you go, Matt. You gotta be on the front wall, man. There's darts being shot at us here. No, they're not. Not unless their parents want them to.
Yeah.
No.
I know how to do it. Does he have it on?
I
the
don't
screen?
know. It's starting to look more and more like it. We're not.
Okay, so all we need to do is
I'm
make
getting
him
a
the
little worried
presenter.
about that.
Randy apparently has something.
It's gonna save me a lot of money.
Okay.
Yeah. Right after I put in my, I got my tickets for the Texas Oklahoma game right after I got them.
Tell us through the meeting.
About 30 minutes later, Texas State Fair is canceled.
Oh, really?
First time ever.
Is he ready to go?
So now it's, but they say the game's still on. Yeah, for now it is.
The game's still on.
For now.
Burn it.
They might move it to Jerryville.
I guess he's.
That would be something better stadium to watch in.
So whenever
Cotton
that
Bowl-
happens,
Cotton Bowl's
you'll just
Been there
see how
for
your own people, which is.
a couple
Mhm.
events there. Not too bad.
You'll just go to him.
It's a
and
great
say,
environment
"Oh,
for the
present-
Oklahoma Texas game, but it's,
This is such great. Oops. So we would say
there's
yes.
no,
at
there's
that
no
time,
place
but I'll
easy to
just
get to
ready.
unless you're
So-
down below.
And then
Mhm.
when he's ready to.
The rest of
go
it, you
back to
gotta,
you, you
it's like a
just click on
maze to get if you're at the
You.
top
and then make yourself
and not on the new
Okay.
parts on the end. You gotta go in the middle.
present. You guys just holler if you need.
Okay.
I'll be right here.
Can you hear us?
Except I
Hey,
did a
man.
good job at-
Pretty good.
So we gotta have problems by
I'm
2:30
taking
if we're gonna
Anthony's
have
spot
one.
today.
Oh, okay.
He's-
Oh, yes, I saw that.
I just want to thank everybody for agreeing to do this. It was kind of a fast, yes, please.
Mhm.
Thank you. So did everyone listen to the presentation this morning?
Yes, and yesterday's, so.
I'm gonna say which presentation.
Yeah, the webinar.
The Spark Force webinar?
I didn't know there was one.
Oh.
I'm here for Aaron.
Oh, okay.
So Aaron wasn't able to make it. I'm Max Heinrichs. So I'm just here representing public schools right now.
Okay.
That's great because we'll be real flexible as long as we have a representative. We're
Right.
happy.
Right. So I'm gonna say that I didn't get to see it. I'm just gonna,
Okay.
I didn't know about it.
I didn't, but I've been able to review just real quick before I came here, I was reviewing the notes that
Randy?
Randy sent. Yeah.
He's been real great about getting those located faster than I do, so.
And there's a lot to digest too, so.
Do we have anybody that's really good at taking notes?
I didn't bring my notes.
I'm not good at that. Can if you'd like me to. I can if you'd like me to try.
Okay. I'm kind of jumping around here.
I'll do it.
Okay. And I don't know that we'll have. And one thing we need to discuss, maybe I'm getting out of order, but do we want to hire, the commissioners mentioned that they could hire someone if we wanted to do the recording and transcribing.
It might be easier, that way we can just focus on the meeting, so. Instead of somebody taking notes
I
back
would
and
say that
forth.
would be good.
Yeah.
Hey, Janine,
Yes?
I don't know if now's the time, but I think it would be appropriate, like you said, to hire someone that would be the leader of this group, and also hire possibly Scott Lloyd to do our financial portion of that.
Well, do we want to give up 5% of our funds?
He actually, he is doing it for a lot of other counties, and he has a minimum fee. It's based on population and the amount others are getting. He sent me a chart, and his minimum fee is $35,000.
Is what?
$35,000. Here's one of my concerns is that, you know, with the new election of the treasurer, you know, obviously you aren't running, so it won't be you. And when the audits come around, it's going to be in 2021 probably. And therefore, if we have someone at the start of this that works through it, our audit should go a lot smoother. That's just my suggestion, and I'll be quiet.
I'll be candid. My reason for asking to be on this task force was so I knew that it was done correctly and it wouldn't bounce back on me when I was gone. So we'll see once we get the form and we get to look at it. To begin with, it does not look difficult. And if we assign it to the schools and the cities to fill in their portion, it shouldn't be too difficult, but we can, I'm open, so we can look at it again.
Okay.
And August 15th, we need to get our reimbursement report in and also our plan. So our beginning plan. Well,
Getting back to transcription, are we going to,
excuse me?
getting back to transcription, are we going to look at hiring somebody to do the transcription?
Yeah, so
Take
I
a
guess,
vote? And who? I don't know, can they hear me? Can you guys hear me out there? My mic need to be on?
Hey, Lloyd,
Yeah.
you know, or and Janine as well. I think we've come down to 2 or 3 points in your agenda, but we haven't organized the committee yet.
that's
And
correct.
that was your first topic. Can we go back there and start with that?
All right. First on tack,
This is organization.
Huh?
Organization, yeah.
yes, I guess we'll go back to where we belong. Do we need, okay, I'm the person that's gonna sign and have the final signature, and I'm the contact person. Do you want me to run the meetings or do you want someone else? I am open to that too, so.
Can you share the screen, Janine?
Excuse me?
Can you share the screen with me, please?
Share the screen with him.
Share his screen of the presenter.
It's on the bottom, it should be.
Nope.
No, that didn't work. Do you want to be the presenter,
Yeah.
Randy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, how did she tell me to do that?
Wouldn't know how to tell you that.
Yeah, we just had it a second ago.
Hey Randy, how do you share that meeting?
You-
I use Google Meeting. This is Mac, so I'm trying to
There you
think
go.
about how I
Right
can
there.
help her here.
Yeah, on your drop down there.
Oh,
Oop.
that was the wrong thing.
The presenter, I can't see that. Nope.
is go into,
Yeah,
is to go into,
that drop down.
the people there and drop down to my name. Should be able to share a screen in that way. I think that's the way it
Yeah,
is.
there you go. You were
Find it?
close.
Well, I thought I did it.
I think you have it.
Yeah, I think you should be.
Hang on, I'm doing my part now. Okay,
Ta-da.
there we go. All right, this is an organizational chart I put together, as I was just bored one night, you know, that happens. So I put this together with the different names that were picked out of this and potentially what each of us would be doing. Putting this together, I believe in any good organization during a disaster, people who are in different groups, sections like we are, there should be someone who is separate to run the operations. The board of commissioners is obviously the last vote here, but someone should run the operations. Many of you may or not know, I think only about 4 of us know that Tabor College was very kind to offer up some of their very esteemed employees to help us out. I think that we should take them up on their offer because they're kind of out of the picture. And that way, Aaron, if Aaron wants to put something in, he'll still have a vote because he won't be running the operations. So we avoid canceling out his vote. Frank Johnson is part of the Tabor crew. He's very good at what he does, and he's somebody that I would suggest being that person. And then once, and if we do choose Tabor College to do this to run the operations, because it's just the person in that operations position is basically making sure the ball keeps rolling. That's their whole job. And then if Tabor College does come online, then you know, they possibly might have an administrative assistant that can help us out with taking notes at cost or not at cost.
Yeah, go ahead
What
and
do you,
ask that.
Randy, can you define run the operations?
Sure, like I said, it's basically keeping the wheel moving here, coordinating with each of the different zones we have here. For example, communities, information technology, continue making that go. For example, if we look at information technology, he's going to touch every one of us and not just one piece. He'll be visiting with school issues and things like that if the schools are looking at information technology as part of their program. So this operations person will keep things moving in the right direction. And then that person would be the one that would come back and visit with the Board of Commissioners and say, this is what the group wants.
Is that
Okay,
including chairing the meetings?
Yes, it does.
Okay, if that would be a hired position,
That's up to Tabor College. They offered him up, and they didn't mention anything about charge when they offered him up in the email.
I don't think the issue is about cost. I think the issue would be about time. So I'll clarify a bit what I think is going on here, because I saw the email, Randy, as well.
Oh, okay.
I think what Frank was trying to say was, here are the various things that we think we have to offer based on the people we have in our organization. And then from there, and so you interpreted that for the most part right. But from there, then we put our heads together internally and we said, who has the margin right now to actually be a part of everything that's going on? And that fell to me. And so then more than one of us involved at that level of giving of time probably is not an option. Now, that's not to say Frank's expertise wouldn't be available at times, or Mike's, or Jules, or even our IT people or our administrative assistant people for that matter, but to ask one of them to commit to in addition to me, to all the time of meeting and decision making and whatever else that might add up to, I doubt would be an option given the time of the year and all that we're trying to navigate with school getting ready to start. Not saying I wouldn't be open to asking, but I have a feeling that is not going to work.
Oh, okay. And like I said, there shouldn't be a whole lot of function with it. However you approach your team, because they're basically just making sure the wheel keeps moving, that it doesn't just kind of get stuck somewhere. I'm not sure how much time that would actually take for them to do that. And if anyone else on the committee has an idea how much time they want this person to work.
So Randy, I think in our minds, if a Tabor representative was asked to take on that role, not that we presumed we would be, but if we were to be asked to take on that role, that person would be me, to be clear. And I
Okay.
am willing, not assuming that it should be me, just saying I'm willing.
I appreciate the clarification. That's how I read the email, but thank you for that. But I like I said, I believe that there should be one person who does that. So that's the reason I built the chart. That's why it's there.
And I think that person should be paid. I mean, we have money and I think that position should be paid, and because they're going to be kind of the glue of everything. Like Randy mentioned, they are the ones that will funnel out all of the decisions or the recommendations that the task force makes up to the county commission. So they would be tasked to collect information from all those people listed under their, like Janine, Randy, Aaron, Rusty, Lloyd, and Anthony. So even though it may not look very time consuming, I think it's going to be pretty consuming because they would also be in close contact with the finance designee.
Okay, if we go that route, we're gonna have to go through an RFP. We can't just pick someone. Is what I got from the commission. So do we have time to do that? I mean, I'm not against it. So. And the people on the task force, we each have our own thing we're supposed to contact people on. Guys in the room?
I was wondering if you're gonna have to RFP everything. And I was wondering if we were gonna have to do all that. How big an effort does that have to take? Your RFP, you have to present it to several people
I think
or get several.
I think we'd have to put it out. I can ask Tina because she was in on that. Because she might have an example.
Yeah, our big problem is time's working against us, so.
Well, and that's why I thought if there's an organization that already has one, but I guess they want us to go through, or we have to go through an RFP, even if it's contracted.
They were telling me about getting somebody to run. And we were asking if it had an RFP, how long would it take and what's involved? Well, when we did the one for community development block grant, we just did it electronically, and we did it with a very fast turnaround time, like by the end of that week or the beginning of the next week. So but all of those grant administrators were on a list, and we sent them to them. They knew what exactly they needed to respond to and what the program was, and they knew that the turnaround are you looking at? um,
Somebody to run the meeting,
Oh,
Kind of an administrator type.
you mean just to like,
organize and run it, do the operations of.
for the meetings, you don't need to do that. Only for if somebody is going to be doing anything with their grant.
Somebody runs the operations outside the meeting too, and would come to the county commission meetings and.
I think if you, it probably,
Look at Tina.
what?
Look at Tina.
Tina, hey, Tina, look at the chart that's up there, and then they would be that operations person. So I don't think in this day and age you would get too many volunteers. So if we have to pay them, what you're saying is we need an RFP.
No. I think you just hire
I was
someone.
gonna say, I didn't think so on that,
You don't need an RFP just to hire somebody to be an employee.
unless it goes over a certain amount.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That simplifies
I think
things.
you would just need to let the board know that you want to hire someone to do that administrative function for your board.
Really just more an administrative reimbursement for time
Right.
versus
Yeah.
not really.
That's what I think. I mean, if you're going to look for someone to actually administer the grant funds, the ins and outs and all of that, you probably are going to need an RFP for that, because it would be a lot more of the higher paid position. An administrative position like this, I wouldn't foresee being a very high paid spot, just to kind of do your administrative parts of the meeting. So I don't know if anybody on the meeting can hear me, but that's not in the room, but. Does
No,
that
you're fine.
help at all? Does that make sense?
So the meeting
I'm glad
yesterday.
I sit in here with you, but I've got an applicant for a position.
No. Okay.
So excuse me, so the meeting yesterday said that about 5% spent on administrative. And I think that's what I got. Is that what you heard?
That doesn't mean that you have to do that. I think that if you wanted somebody to run this whole program and to be in charge of collecting all the receipts, filling out all the paperwork, submitting all of that, and making sure those grant funds are going in and out, that is what they're talking about the 5% for. And so if you're going to hire somebody to do that, you would need to do an RFP for that.
So, but if say we had someone to do finance, like Scott Lloyd said, he'd do it for like 35,000. So we would be, if we hired someone for around that to coordinate this, then we would be well under the 5%.
Yeah, I would hope, yeah. But I still think that you would need to do some sort of a solicitation for those services to comply with federal guidelines.
Is there a prescribed length of time that has to be open for this funding, or is it similar to what you were saying, where we can open it, keep it short, and then?
I think you could open it, keep it fairly short, just as long as those things are stated in the RFP. And I'm happy to help develop that if you all need that assistance. I can help you with that if you like.
Okay.
But I would
Right.
think that you would need to, the first report
It's gonna be
is
quick.
due August 15th. And the reconciliation and our plan is due August 15th.
Right, so it's not just one, it's the whole thing.
Mhm.
So if we hired someone like Scott Lloyd, would he run the meetings too and do that whole part, or just the finance?
I think he would just mainly do finance.
So what if we hired somebody like Scott Lloyd to do that piece, and then we just hired administrative assistants that will come in and take notes and potentially pass on information, kind of coordinate the group?
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at two separate things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Anthony.
And I think as long as, if you just kind of come up with what you need, and have somebody that can present that to the board as far as, here's what we need. We need to hire an administrative. Look at having someone administer. We need to do an RFP. You know, I think getting those basics in place.
Okay. So if we have a volunteer,
Or,
Rusty said he would probably do it, so. And the administrative assistant,
oh,
do we need to go farther or?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding now.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
it
following you.
sounded to me like you were just talking about wanting to hire. And what is, so let's see, what was-
Okay, I'm gonna summarize what I think I've heard.
thank you.
I think what I've heard is there's a financial element of this that we could potentially really need an accountant for, an accounting firm. Someone like Scott Lloyd, we could hire for $35,000-ish is what I think I heard Deidre say, which would be well shy of the 5% total that's allowed by federal guidelines to hire people to help. So that's one thing I've heard. That, however, would not be someone who would come in and administrate the task force, give leadership to the task force, help move things forward. We need a chair of this task force, right? That's what I was saying I was willing to do. I was willing to chair the task force. Now, having said that, that came with an assumption, actually two, that everyone was willing to pitch in and share the workload, because I do think there's going to be a lot of work. I realize from a lot of experience that chairs have a lot of organizational thinking and research to do in order to bring knowledge and potential for unity around things to a task force, and I would be prepared to do my best with that. The other assumption I would have is that we would have someone that I could depend on as an administrative assistant. I will not be good at taking all the notes and writing the minutes and scheduling outside Zoom meetings with consultants and things like that. I assume that I would have an administrative assistant to help with all that. And so then what I've heard is we could hire somebody to do that, because maybe we don't have somebody on the task force who's just eager to jump right into that piece of it. So that would be a second person that we would hire. And what I think I understand there is that's not going to put us anywhere close than in some total of the 5% we're allowed. That's what I've
Yeah, that sounds good.
And are both of those positions then have to be RFPs? They would just be, like Scott Lloyd, you'd have to RFP that.
I would think that for the administrative services, I would think that you would have to. For the other piece, an hourly person to help organize the meetings, disseminate information, and take the notes. That is a small hire. That's just advertised at this once a year. And we can help post that if we need to, but other than that, we would need an official, anything beyond that.
And my final assumption is I would assume that there's one or more contact people that I'd have access to pretty regularly. And I don't even know what I really mean by that, but what I'm trying to say is, from a government structure point of view, I don't have any ability to understand how do you make sure the right entities are getting the right things at the right times.
And we can help facilitate.
Yeah,
that through
that's
the
not a
county
problem.
clerk's office.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion on that, or what do we need to make that happen?
And is someone actually taking notes today? Yay! Very good.
I'm not very good, but
I'm
I'm
sure
taking
they're
notes.
fantastic. Just make sure they make any motions. then.
Rusty.
That part, yep.
All right.
I'm dying to read them myself.
So when we ask for somebody like Scott Lloyd, are we calling him an accounting firm or are we calling him an accountant? What are we asking?
Because we'd be hiring.
Yeah,
Are you limiting?
Well,
but it would be anybody that
We're
wants,
gonna send out an RFP.
yeah,
to
it'd
the
be,
accounting firms.
Well, my question is, are you limiting to accounting firms or are you going to
Could
look
be
at any other
individuals.
organizations, for instance, Community Foundation or,
could be individuals, yeah. Or,
I mean, accounting firms are easy because there's kind of a list.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're considering the other types of organizations.
and would they need to have knowledge of federal,
Yeah.
federal, state, and local, and all the purchasing? Is that pretty much every accounting firm? I don't know. I mean, I know Scott Lloyd does our audit, but I don't
A
know.
lot of them, but not all of them.
We can designate that when in the RFP as far as that they need to have the knowledge of
Okay.
the federal.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we hire an accounting firm or accounting, okay, hold on, yeah,
Let's get a chairman first.
yeah.
Well, I think our chairman wants to make sure it's not all on him, so.
Do we really need a chairman? I mean, because this isn't really formal.
I feel like we need somebody that can move things along.
Yep.
I mean, we're 30 minutes into this and we're only on the first item, so.
Yes.
Oh, I was thinking that was Janine, so, sorry.
You want it?
I'd be glad to pass it on. I do have a lot. Do I hear a motion for
Well,
chairman?
when I said I was willing, I'm not saying I know that's the best. I'm just saying I'm willing. If Janine is saying that she's willing to do it, there might be some wisdom in that. She clearly has more understanding of state, local, federal guidelines, political connections, all of that than I ever would.
I'd be happy to share.
Well, and I was just meaning for today. I mean, because I think weren't we gonna maybe look at hiring someone? Because Rusty, if you are up there as chairman, you're voting, your voting rights, are they taken away?
No,
No.
we're just looking at somebody that's gonna move this along. I don't see that, why that chairman wouldn't have a vote. And we're looking, I mean, really what, to me, I think what the board has looked at right now and would be to have a chairman, to hire an accounting firm to take care of the financials, and then to hire an administrative assistant. Those are three items that it sounds like we're at least partially all on the same page with that, unless I'm wrong.
No.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we need to nominate, or we need to select a chair, and then we need a motion to do an RFP for the accounting firms, and then we need to do the same thing for an administrative assistant. We need to get that to the county commission Monday, the way I understand it.
Sounds good.
Let's do it.
That's exactly right. Do you want
Sounds
to be
great.
that chair? I'm just going.
And I don't think that, and to me, it doesn't matter whether it's Rusty or it's Janine. I don't think that you need to know federal and local government. You need somebody that can facilitate and move the discussion along. I think that knowledge of that isn't necessarily important because we're all experts. Well, I'm not, but the rest of you are experts in your own field, and you're going to rely on us. You've got, well, right now you've got three of us that know federal, state, and local regulations, that kind of thing, pretty well. So,
Yeah, so if I were doing this, here's how I would see my role. I would be sure that meetings get scheduled, that the agenda comes together and is sent out ahead of time. I would be sure that the meetings move along in a timely and orderly fashion. I would try to help facilitate the delegation of work and set up some, informal approach to how we're going to keep ourselves accountable to the deadlines that we have in play. I'd try to stay apprised of what the actual requirements are for the distribution of this grant money. And by the way, is our charge to simply decide how to distribute the money, or do we have to make grant proposal to even receive the money? Has that decision already been made? I understood it that we're already guaranteed the amount of money that we're
We'll
going to get.
get the money.
Okay,
First, we need to pay off, reimburse everyone. So that's our first task, is to collect that, so we know what we have to work with.
Yes.
And then we can go on to needs, wants, and
that's the way I understood it as well. So we've got kind of a tiered approach here. We're going to take roughly $2.3 million and decide how to distribute it according to a set of priorities that are in play that we have to follow. And we have to make sure we document all of that properly, which is going to take the work of a lot of people, not only people around this table. So we're going to have to go connect with various other leaders in the organizations, and we're going to have to figure out how to get the word out that they can make applications, so to speak.
well, that's why we have the
Right.
various people on
Right.
the schools, cities.
So that was my understanding of a task force chair, of the role of a task force chair. And
That's what I was looking at when I put this together.
yeah, if that's the shared understanding, I'm willing to give it my best shot. If there's somebody that's better equipped to do that, speak up or identify that person, I have no problem. We need to make the best decision we can.
Well, I move to nominate Rusty Allen as chair for this task force.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Definitely aye. Deidre and Randy?
Yes.
Okay.
With that said, then it's time to keep the meeting moving. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to continue entertaining the idea of hiring two positions. One would be an administrative assistant position, and one would be, and I don't know what word to use, Randy, what word did someone use for the financial piece where the Scott Lloyd's accounting firm would, what's the right way to describe that?
I was trying to find what the state called it this morning.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out as well.
Deidre, did you have the right language for that?
I wonder, could we just call him or whoever, a fiscal agent?
That would make sense.
That works.
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion on each of those.
So I would motion that we do an RFP for a fiscal agent.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there other comments regarding that, or have we had that discussion thoroughly enough?
I think somewhere in there you could put consulting engagement with a fiscal agent.
Somebody capturing that in their
Yeah.
notes?
I got it.
Thanks, Mike. Okay. You
Are
want to
we
read, Matt, kind of how you're hearing that motion?
It's an RFP for a consulting agent or a consulting agency to be the fiscal agent for this process. Is that acceptable, or do we want
Do we need to call it Sparks?
For the Sparks, for the Spark Task Force, or for the
Do we want to say something about administering recording? I mean,
We'll do that on the next one. We're gonna take care of this.
this, yeah, but this person is also, our accountant has to do the reimbursement report and also the plan.
I
Right?
think all that will be captured in your RFP, sort of
Okay.
what those recommendations are. So,
Yeah, for sure. Okay,
so I'll amend that to say Sparks Task Force and.
yeah,
Mhm.
So a consulting agency to act as a fiscal agent for the Sparks Task Force.
I think that sounds really good. I think that captures it in the sentence. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now I'd entertain a motion for hiring an administrative assistant.
I'll move that we hire an administrative assistant for the Sparks Task Force.
Thank you, Deidre. Is there a second? One question I would have for discussion is how exactly are we going to go about getting this person hired?
And do we have a job description?
Yeah, and I'd say amount of time with the job description would be a very important part of this one.
So we're going to need a job description that includes a rough bullet pointed list of what the person would do. We need an amount that we're going to pay probably, yes. We're going to need an amount of time per week that this person might have to give up to a certain number of hours. Does someone want to propose what we pay said person?
Does the county have an existing
That's what I was
administrator?
gonna say, you know, the county should have a pay scale. We can take a look at that, come up with a rough number.
There might be
Um,
an administrative assistant.
Designation.
Janine, can you find that information for us when the job description gets ready? You don't have to do it now, but we'll,
I'll check with
Okay.
Ashley and see if we don't have a job description and a pay scale for that.
how should we advertise it in terms of time? It occurs to me maybe up to 10 hours a week. I think that's going
Reasonable.
to ebb and flow depending on where we're at in the process. Is that a good way to advertise it?
So are we going to give them, or do we just give them a flat, a flat fee? Or are we paying them hourly?
Yeah, that would be easier to pay a flat fee. What if we pay, what does $12 an hour seem like around the table? Just so that we can,
Seems ballpark.
okay,
Yeah.
so if somebody takes, what's the amount of time in total? How many months are we going to be involved with this in total? Up till January? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah.
So how many weeks are there between now and January 1st? Let's use 20, so 200 hours times $12.
No, yeah.
10,
Yeah, 2,400.
$2,400.
Yeah.
What if we just, how do we feel about that? Offer a stipend of $2,400.
You mean that's the total?
Yes, for until January 1st, Deidre, is we're using up to 10 hours a week as our number for 20 weeks. And January 1st is kind of our timeline at $12 an hour. That's $2,400.
In reality, do you think you'll get someone to do that?
That's a good question.
I mean, I think, and it's
I know
gonna,
I'll try to recruit someone.
if the audits last longer, or I mean, the money is to be spent by the end of December, right? But then there might be some closure work that goes on, so I think it needs to be at least $5,000. I'm just saying, because it's not, I don't think it's going to be a super easy job. That's my thought.
Well, from my perspective, I received that. That seems to come out of a bit of experience and wisdom. If that's how the task force feels, that as a chair, that would make me feel better because then I'd be pretty liberal with what I expected, instead of being a bit more conservative with what I expected out of an assistant.
So what are you expecting the administrative assistant to do?
At this point in time, to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah,
I think they could help Rusty collect all the information that goes to Scott. And Janine, you know as well as I know, and Randy too, here at the county, just to do our organization, that's quite cumbersome. And it's busy. I don't want to downplay it, but it is kind of busy work. But it does have to be done.
I think 5,000 in flexibility.
I do too.
And so, given that we don't know what this is or how much data someone's going to have to track down, I think that's probably smart to err on that side.
With
And
that,
that's my issue with doing a flat fee or something like
Yeah,
that.
'cause you
Is
don't
the
know.
reality that we don't know is 10 hours enough.
And would that be something we could go back?
I was gonna say, can we adjust?
Amend after?
Yeah,
I
amend
think
it.
5,000 might be a good start, and then we could come back and amend if we amend that, if we need more hours after January 1.
Mm.
You know,
Well-
to do the audit and all that.
yeah, and I would see us changing the ad to say from up to 10 hours a week to up to 20 hours a week. In keeping with the $5,000 and the $12 an hour. Ish.
Yeah, because I think right here at first, it's going to be at 20 hours or, just to get on board and to figure it out.
Well, and I'm sorry, but
You-
each one of us that's part of the task force is also have our areas where we're going to be collecting information, contacting people, and letting them know what we need and that we need it quickly.
For sure.
So, it might not be that much for the administrative person to do. Because we all have our areas of what we're supposed to be taking care of too, so. But it could be more. Who knows?
Well,
I think that's a good base.
you do?
Yeah, I
Roy?
think that's a good, yeah.
Matt,
And we
would
can
you-
amend it as we need to.
Yeah.
Matt, would you read a potential motion with all that?
Did you move to hire an administrative assistant for the Sparks Task Force with a stipend up to $5,000 to end the January 1st, 2021. That gives you a little bit of flexibility, but
Yeah,
You might not put up to 5,000 because if we find it's more,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying?
sure.
just call it 5,000 for now. We've left ourselves plenty of room with the 5%. So that sounds like a motion to me that has been moved and seconded, and now you've heard it again. Do you want to discuss more, or are we ready to call the question? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so next on our agenda was to get an August 15 reimbursement report, a subrecipient report, a collection of information timeline, transfers, and a next meeting. So I think, Randy, my sense is you probably have the most working knowledge of it at this point. Or maybe Janine, would one of you want to speak to these things? Because the way I received that on the agenda is we need to all get our minds focused in the right direction here in terms of what we're being held to account for. So the August 15 reimbursement report, that includes, what all does that include?
Okay, the funds that were spent for whatever. The whatever that we've expended because of the COVID.
And so what are let's do a quick brainstorm. What are the agencies in our county that we anticipate
For what?
would request reimbursement at this point?
I would think schools,
All of our schools,
Cities.
cities, because everybody's had to revamp, redo, switch to distance working.
Essentially fire districts.
The hospitals and nursing homes and.
would medical providers cover quite a bit there if we use that language?
Okay, we got to remember that we're back to public things, probably not private to begin with.
Yeah, so this, what we need to have.
Anything
August
that's
15th,
levied on the tax roll.
Yeah,
Okay.
but clarify, August 15th, we need the plan for the public, cities, schools, hospitals, obviously
Mhm.
not our hospital.
Yeah.
Fire districts. Those are the ones that we need to have a plan, we need to know by August 15th. That's for this first.
The reimbursement, what we're gonna pay back.
And those are all the public entities
Yeah.
that would
Right.
be qualified, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the medical providers who are public by nature and the nursing homes that are public by nature,
Is the nursing home here public?
There aren't any
Yeah.
of them on there.
okay? So far I have schools, cities, public medical providers, which I'm going to include like first responders of all types
Right.
into that.
Yeah.
What else?
All the health.
Like the Department on Aging,
Right.
libraries. I know libraries, I don't know if they've done anything different, so to speak, up to this point. But I have had some, and also, I don't know, Janine, can we use faith-based?
Excuse me?
What about
repeat?
faith-based?
Faith-based?
What?
She said faith-based, and I don't think that in the first round, they're not a public entity, they're not levying a tax.
Is there clarity in everyone's minds that in this August 15 reimbursement report, only public entities can be included? Is there clarity around that?
Yes.
Right, but
Was that you, Randy?
Yes, sir, it was. And my other question was, I'm all about worksheets and so I can check things off. But what I'm wondering is, and I haven't noticed in all the conference calls because I haven't seen it, but is there a list saying these are eligible expenses? So when we go and talk to the sheriff's department for what expenses they have, I'll say this is what is eligible and what we can actually be requesting. Is there a sheet somewhere, a checklist so we could? Has anyone seen that?
Not yet, I don't believe, but I'm hoping that'll come down the pipe pretty quick. There is pretty much if you look at the federal guidelines. And there's a lot of things we can put into, there's a list of categories.
That's what I read was the list of categories. I didn't see an actual like template of some sort that went line item by line item, but it was categorical by nature. And so at this point in time, I figured that's what we'd present to these people is here are the categories that can be reimbursed, and you're going to have to create the spreadsheet for consideration. And if I understand the task force's charge right, then we have to consider all of that and then plug it into the proper forms and submit it to the oversight agencies that we're going to be working with. That's the way I've understood this and what
Okay.
I've read so far.
Janine, with the list that you saw, can you type up something and shoot it out to all of us saying these are the different categories when we go talk to these folks?
He's asking, Janine, can you type up a list of the categories?
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If someone could actually, if we're tasked to get in touch, like if I am with all the medical providers, if someone can craft an email requesting this information and including all of that, that way the request goes out exactly the same to everybody.
Good
Does that
idea.
make sense?
That does make sense.
And somewhere along the line, we need to make sure that it isn't something that's already been covered by other grants. Care, what was that?
CARES.
Caring
Yeah.
fund?
CARES Act.
CARES Act.
It's the payroll protection program that,
PPP.
but there were only 3 organizations and 2 for sure were private. I saw the Marion County Record this week, Tabor College and Barkman. I don't remember who the third one was that got that payroll protection money in our county.
Well, there was way more than that.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
So
Those were the big ones,
Were-
right?
So-
those were maybe the main 3.
Those might have been the biggest.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to have to look at with the hospitals to see if they did the payroll protection, then they are not eligible.
Well, they wouldn't be eligible only for that amount that covered their
Yeah.
payroll. They would be eligible
Right.
for other
Right.
expenses.
Right, right.
So is someone willing to craft a potential email that we would all use with the agencies that we're going to try to, public agencies we're going to try to connect with?
It's your administrative assistant. Who knows what that language would look like?
Yeah.
That's what we really need. Is that somewhere that we can?
Janine, could you and Tina maybe get something? I hate to throw Tina under the bus, but
Well, I'm wondering if there isn't something out there in all those things that we had that would get us pretty close.
I
Right.
think there is.
Yeah, I had that impression too.
under KAC, maybe that website.
That's what I was thinking. Wasn't there something?
Deidre, are you willing to work with Tina on that?
I hate to commit, because it needs to be out pretty quickly. Yeah, I guess I could.
I can
Okay.
work with Tina on it, so.
Okay, Janine said she would help with that too, okay?
Okay,
All right, and so then will you guys circulate that to the whole task force then? When you have it, when you have something you think would work? My recommendation would be keep it just about as simple as you can.
And then we can send it out. You guys can look at it and see if it's
Right.
saying what we wanted to say.
Right. Shape it a little bit and then, and we can do that business over email, I would think. I got a bounce back, by the way, on somebody's email address on all of this. Am I the only one that got that? If so, then I won't worry about it for now. Who would be the right people to section these, agencies off to? So in other words, with all the schools, it'll be Aaron, but right now it's Max sitting here. I'm just thinking through here. Would it make sense to say, okay, Aaron, would you get this message, this email message out to all the schools, notifying them that here are the guidelines and you can submit back to me and then I'll take it to the task force for reimbursement. So Aaron would probably be the schools. Anthony, would you be for the cities?
Yeah, there's that organizational chart that Randy Frank had.
Oh, he had that already?
Yeah, I
on
mean,
there?
I don't know if that's kind of what we're going with, is what he had, but I've got it. To me, it makes sense. So based off that chart he's got, I would
Well,
get all those people that are under that, which community libraries, those will be the first 2 libraries the cities.
Yes,
There's other ones, large and small businesses, daycare and churches, but we're not gonna deal with that right now.
right, just public
Yeah,
entities for now.
so, yeah, I can do the city, the libraries.
Okay. And then Deidre, would you be the one to reach out to the medical providers that are public in nature?
Yes, I could do that.
Randy, or if you have that chart, Anthony, would you keep reading what Randy's suggesting there?
Okay, are we looking at Deidre right now?
Yes,
Yeah, so it's got hospitals, long-term care, healthcare providers, includes dentist, optical, mental health, and EMS.
great. What about like law enforcement, first responders?
Randy has that under his own.
Okay, great.
Fire, federal government buildings.
Okay, and where would the Department on Aging fall?
Probably, and this is where we're gonna run into some
Overlap.
audience. We've got
Yeah.
Janine is doing county departments, but you have EMS, which is a county department under Deidre. So, and it's the same, Randy Frank's got law and fire, but we have fire and police.
Yeah.
And I assume we've already gathered up a lot of that information, which includes.
All together.
So really, to me, Randy, because this is important, it doesn't affect Hillsborough, but we do have fire districts in this county, and they will need to be contacted because they're not represented by a city. That's the one that I don't want to miss.
Did you catch that, Randy?
No, his voice is very quiet. I can't hear him very well.
It'd probably help if I talked into the microphone.
Thank you.
I'm trying
One
to pull
of
it
the
up.
issues we've got, Randy, is you've got law and fire, but, the city, Hillsborough, we've got our own police department, they're already included in the stuff that we've got, because we've already started compiling that, what we need to do on our end. And so police is already factored into that, as is fire, if there isn't for fire. But what I don't want to miss is fire districts, because I know we have a couple of those around the county.
Right. I've already contacted the chairman of the fire commission and Mark Penner, and I told him that we would be having future conversations about this.
Randy, would you be able to email all of us that organizational chart?
I already have.
Okay, great. Thank you. That chart seems to be something we can trust for assignments then. Are we all in agreement with that?
Yeah, if I could see it.
Well, the assignments
trying
are
to
pretty
pull it
well
up.
spelled out in the Board of County Commissioners Task Force.
As well?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Thanks, Janine. What about, do we need to make this just a one-time public announcement in the newspapers? An appeal to, so that if we did happen to let something fall through the cracks, we would have a fallback that we could rely on?
Janine, won't you or Tina have a list of veterans? County?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Janine, can you see to that we get something published in the newspapers?
Sure.
Once we get this email crafted, we can take language from that and encourage people to reach out.
Give them a contact.
Right. Mhm. Thank you. Can someone say, I'm moving to the sub-recipient report. Can someone say some words about what they understand that to be?
Okay, and in the spreadsheet that we turn in for reimbursements and also for our plans, there is a portion for each entity, like if we were paying school for 10 for their reimbursements, they will have a spreadsheet of their own that gets filled in. So that is,
And so that's a report that exists that needs to be filled out. Is that the same with the reimbursement report?
it'll be the same type thing on the plan and on the,
Could we have a sample of that sent to all of us so we all kind of know what that looks like?
it's on,
And I might have missed it somewhere.
they just gave us the email for it. And you can go out, I will find that email.
Oh, yeah, it's on subrecipient expenditures on the reimbursement report.
What do you
Yeah, this was, yeah, I just have this from what they had sent out on the webinar. So it's in there as a separate, yeah. As part of the reimbursement receipts report.
Here's kind of what it looks like. So.
You're talking about the email that Randy sent with the attachment from
Yeah.
the webinar?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
and that also gives you a link that you can go out and look at the report yourself.
yes. And so what I think I'm understanding is there's a reimbursement report that's a bit of a macro type of report.
Mhm.
And then there's a micro report that each agency is going to have to complete. Am I understanding that right?
That's kind of what it
And
looks like.
so now I have a question that is related to consultation. Is it our boots on the ground people filling out those reports, and then our consultant that we're going to hire looking at that and sort of reconciling / verifying that, hey, you're good to go with that? Is that the process that we have
Well,
envisioned?
That was a process if we didn't use a consultant.
And if we use the consultant, then what?
That's what we have to decide. Some way the entity itself is going to have to get the information.
And so the consultant then has more of an oversight role than an actually collecting and filling out forms role? I'm asking, I don't know for sure.
Well, that's what we,
Okay,
I know Scott in his, because I just saw him on the webinar, and so I shot him an email and I said, hey, does your firm do this? And they're doing it for Harvey, Pratt, and Gray County, but they've got about 6 more counties on the bubble if they get it approved. And he's working on an engagement letter that he's processing or finalizing. It's about 3 pages. He's tried to keep it simple, but he's just trying to help people get the money and make sure it's accounted for so that they don't have to send it back.
that's the last thing we want to do. Can you share that email with us?
Yes, I will forward that. And then it also has his attachment where he figured they basically charge $3.50 an hour, but they have a minimum and it's based on population. I'll send that.
So the minimum is 35,000, but we could potentially end up above that.
No, we're at the minimum because our county's small.
Okay, so we will
Great.
not have to pay more than 35,000.
Correct.
Okay.
okay, so that sounds good. Thanks, Deidre, for sending that to us. Now, the subrecipient report, if I'm understanding this correctly, when we reach out through our assignments to these various agencies, letting them know that they can request reimbursement, it would have seemed to me that we need to attach the subrecipient report to those emails. Yes?
Yes, that's the way.
Okay, let's keep that in mind then when we get ready to execute. Timeline. So in order to submit the larger macro report by August 15, if we can work backwards from there, that's going to mean at some point we want these sub-recipient reports to us so that our consultant can look at them. What date do we want to propose that be? Because we're going to need to include that in the email that we send out.
Yes, and the way I understand it can be for funds expended up to July 31st. Is that correct? Is that what?
Yeah, that's what it says.
I read that, but I don't remember. Randy, do you remember the date on that?
It's all about that stuff.
Yeah, reporting period through July 31st.
Somebody found it. Lloyd, did you find it?
Yeah, county reporting period, March 1st through July 31st.
Okay, so that would need to be included, Janine and Deidre, in the email that we send. But back to my question, what about maybe this is tentative for now, but what working deadline do we want to put on that to these agencies. Remember that the final report has to be gone through and ready to send by August 15th.
I would say by the end of the day, or that's a Monday. I know that doesn't give them a lot of time come 30, from July 31st, but if we end up hiring Scott Lloyd, he's got 6 other counties to also be looking at.
He's gonna need quite a bit of
He's
time.
gonna need some time, so I think 5 o'clock, Monday the 3rd, August 3rd.
So Anthony's proposing tentatively that we use in our email communication with these various agencies for their sub-recipient reports, that they submit them via email, and Janine and Deidre will come up with whatever the appropriate email is there. Maybe that's mine, I don't know. You can think that through, but by end of business on August 3. We all good with that? Do we have a consensus around that date, or do others have more to say about that?
Well, one thing I was noticing, we were already getting emails about expenditures from several places, so we may have a lot of that ahead of time already. So that should help.
Some will be about ready to go. I know
Like tomorrow.
without anticipating when Tabor would be able to submit theirs. Ours is about ready to go already, and we can't even submit by August 15th. So it doesn't sound like. So some will probably be about ready to go. It sounds like a lot of yours are about ready to go. Yeah.
Ours is closed. Okay.
So I think August 3 is very reasonable then.
Well, and if they don't anticipate paying on August 31st, July 31st, if they're done by July 15th, so much the better.
Yeah, right. And I'm going to anticipate, based on some grapevine that I've heard from other counties, that there are going to be agencies who just don't follow through. Either that, or they don't feel like they really were hit with expenses that were worthy of requesting reimbursement for. Okay, so we've got that marked off. What did transfers mean on the agenda?
Yeah,
I didn't know what that meant.
Okay, that was my question. Do we, as we get, say the school spent $24,000 on laptops, do we want the county to reimburse them right away? Or do we want to wait until we turn in the list and we're sure it passes? Because we don't know how quickly they're going to do a turnaround on
Seems like,
approving these lists.
well, I'll tell you my first run at that is it seems like we have to wait, because what if the requests exceed the amount of money that we have? I think that's unlikely, but I think we have to wait.
So does the county already have this money?
We do not.
Okay.
We should get it about the 15th.
To me, I would not be handing out any money until we know that it's approved.
I
But
agree with that.
we're dealing with the state here. I am afraid that we will not get a notification that everything passes until sometime in September.
Well, I think if I understood Anthony right, what he meant was that we internally approve it.
And then we can go ahead and pay.
I would say if we've hired a,
My whole issue is, and I know we're dealing with the state, this is different from other things that I've dealt with, I guess.
It's
with the
totally
state.
different.
It's a little
Well-
bit weird. And the fact that you're actually getting the money before they actually approve your expenses.
Mhm.
That's the problem I've got, because I don't want to be sending money to different communities and then the state, for whatever reason, denies that request. So that's kind of the issue I'm having. And so I don't foresee, and this is for the county's benefit, because it benefits me if the county just transfers the money without the state approving, then we get our money and we're good to go. But
Well,
to me,
I have another thing to come up with on
for me,
that.
I would think that the county wants to wait until everything's locked.
Well, and I also see if Scott or whoever, I keep saying him, but if whoever does the financial piece, if it is Scott, he's doing it for other counties, so he will kind of know, you know,
Right.
they'll get used to know what's payable and what's acceptable.
Is there, is there gonna be like a limit on a organization though? I've heard about limits in other counties. So like, I'm just gonna throw one out. We're putting water fountains in, that are bottle filled because when you think about going and getting a drink,
Yeah,
you see kids sucking on those, you know what I mean? So we want to put bottle fill. Well, that's 30 grand, guys. I mean, what's going to be, that's why I'm sitting here going, what's acceptable? What can we ask for?
Has the state put a limit or are those?
I think
What you're
that's up to
mentioning.
this group to,
Yeah, I haven't seen any.
What
this
is
round
that?
it's up to us.
and how
yes.
many people are going to put in for it. And so what I would be afraid of is if let's say it's $30,000 and you're only going to, I can only get 14. So I would be going, oh, well, I better figure out how I'm going to pay for that. You
Hey,
know, or
Jenny,
whatever.
I have to go.
So that's a little bit of my problem with it.
Gotcha. Thanks.
And it's
Thanks,
hard to
Deidre.
put a limit on it when
You don't know. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
don't know. So for this first round where we're looking at public entities, I'm leery to put a limit on it.
Okay.
To be honest.
Because
But it may
I'm
be
thinking,
something that we have to wiggle with when it gets to, August 3rd.
So do you see that? Because I purchased those on Monday. Is that something I put on?
I would think so.
I would.
It's a
Okay,
COVID,
and
you're
then-
doing it because of.
And then we gotta
COVID-19.
buy reusable masks, we gotta buy reusable gaiters, we gotta buy face shields, we gotta buy, all these things are coming up, and you're going, man, every time you turn around, it's $6,000, and you're going, so.
And that's what this fund
And
is
that's
for.
why, Aaron and I have talked about this, we just wanna sit down with all the superintendents, go, what do you need, and how can we make sure you get it, you know what I mean? Because I think everybody needs those water fountains. I know Aaron says he has a few more than we do, but when you think about a big school campus, we have 50 of them. It's just what it is.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to figure out what is on there, Randy, is what I'm trying to figure out and what we could get reimbursed for. So, okay.
Go ahead, Janine.
Okay. Along with the transfers, now Marion City has already submitted a resolution, much like the county commission presented to the state, that they're going to give to the county, that if what they have spent for, they're liable if it's not.
That's correctly.
Yes.
So
So
I
just like the county is, right now, the county is liable for everything. So if somebody bought pink shoes for everybody and that wasn't approved, the county would be liable for that. Do we want to pass down that liability?
I haven't looked at the resolution. I don't foresee in this first portion of it, when we're looking at public entities, I don't foresee a problem passing such a resolution, but honestly, I don't foresee in the state's perspective, no matter how many resolutions are passed, the county's gonna be liable.
Yeah, no matter
So,
what, we're going to be liable.
But I do think it puts something there. I mean, I think we would pass same resolution.
Yeah, it's a reasonable request to have a public entity pass that type of resolution, accepting the responsibility for that. And I don't think that it would be a problem for any of them, at least to my knowledge, to do something like that, to accept that responsibility. You're taking federal money, so you should be able to, stand behind that.
Right, and we know we're going to be audited no matter
Right.
what.
So I think it's reasonable for the task force to accept or require a public entity to pass that. I think that would be a reasonable request.
And we
So-
would be providing the resolution.
So will that come in that email then too? So everybody has that kind of language of what they need to do?
Yeah,
There's a template
template
email.
already.
Yeah.
And when I'm sitting there, because I know we have a board meeting on Monday, is that something that,
Take that, if you,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been emailed to you, but we need. to
I'm not a hard,
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't on this because it's Aaron,
Mhm.
but
That's gonna be the thing, we need to get that resolution out to everybody in a fairly quick manner because
Mhm.
everybody meets.
that
at
needs to be a
different
part of
times.
that email.
So I'm just going to give you my take on all that. I see that as we are going to be putting ourselves in a situation where that's going to hang up our ability to move forward. Because I think you're going to have such an inconsistent follow-up to that. You're talking about a lot of different agencies that have to accept that resolution.
And really, from my perspective, I don't see a problem requiring the resolution, but I do understand what he's saying. It's really the county commissioners, because they're the ones at the end of the day that are gonna be responsible, unless it's you, Jimmy. But I'm assuming the responsibility is gonna rely on the Board of County Commissioners.
So if you're saying to people, hey, here are the things, and tell me if I'm misunderstanding this. This is what I'm hearing everyone say. Multiple agencies. Hey, there's funds potentially available to reimburse you for expenses you've incurred. Here are the categories that are eligible. By the way, you can't double dip on payroll protection money. And we need it by X. And you also have to get your governing bodies to pass this resolution. And we need a signed copy of that before we're even going to consider it. And by the way, you got to have that done by August 3rd, because we've got to present this macro report to the state on August 15th. I think it's going to be a deal breaker for multiple agencies to be able to do all that by that time.
I don't want to speak for Matt. For us, we're used to that. That's an everyday thing for cities. So however many cities there are in Marion County, they're used to it. We
Well,
do it all the time.
If I'm wrong, you guys know
but
better
the
than me.
schools, the fire districts, some of the other.
Yeah.
We only meet once a month and it's
The
gonna be the
people that
second Monday.
meet at different times, it could be a challenge. I mean, you could extend it, they could submit their application by August 3rd, but say, if we don't have it by the 15th, then you can pull that portion out potentially, I guess. I don't know how you would do that. Or you could hold the money until they pass such a resolution at the county level, so they don't get their disbursement until they pass it.
And so here's just how my mind works. Now, so keep in mind all of what Matt just said. We will be the ones administratively looking at that list and saying, are all the boxes checked? Got to make sure the money gets held.
Yeah.
That those now have to go to a different spreadsheet.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I mean, I don't like to put extra burden on anybody, but I think this isn't that burdensome, truly.
Okay.
I mean, it's basically saying we're going to accept this money and we're going to be liable for it if we screw it up. And so I think that seems to be reasonable to me. The timing issue will be problematic for some people, because Max was saying they only meet once a month. It's summer. Township fire boards are notorious for that type of stuff too. They may have a quorum, so it's giving them a little bit of grace with that is fine. But saying it's a requirement, I don't think is too big of an inconvenience.
That would be something I for sure could get it to happen on August 10th. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
but not having it right now and just sending out my agenda, I really don't want to alter it, but I could pull something.
Mm-hmm.
So is the task force, what's the collective wisdom here? I'm hearing a leaning toward requiring the resolution be accepted by every agency that is to be considered for reimbursement
And
funds.
for me, I'm good with it, but at the same time, well, county commissioners don't care. They're the ones that are gonna be responsible.
Jonah, are you still on the call?
Come on in.
Was there?
Tina,
Oh, yeah.
We're
This-
talking about the
the
resolution.
resolution that the city of Marion, the commissioners mentioned how they feel about that. Are they wanting all the entities to do that?
It hasn't been discussed in the commission meeting yet, and I have a feeling that they will want this.
Okay, well, that probably
Right,
takes care of it then.
Is the language put
Rusty?
together somewhere that you can get it
Yes.
out to all of us?
Yeah, they're just templates.
If I could get it for Monday, I would put it and to get it to the schools, I would ask, I know Peabody's already had theirs. I think Gossel,
Yeah, we got
Center,
that.
Marion and Hillsborough have theirs on Monday.
Yeah, forward it to
We
me.
would pass that on Monday if we had it.
Okay,
I'd put a special in it and do that.
okay, I can send that out to all the schools.
Yeah.
I did send it to this committee, a little bit right as the meeting started, I think is when I got it. So. There's a chat on the.
Randy, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, it's, as far as the resolution goes, consistency is what's going to keep us out of trouble. So if someone decides not to do it and we pay them, then what's to come back, for all those who went through the trouble to do it. So we need to be consistent in what we're doing. And also, with the media release that we've talked about, possibly put that in there too, let them know that this is going to be a fast-paced effort, that we've got to do this, and that all the participants are going to have to be engaged quickly in order to make it happen on the deadlines.
Yep, I see a lot of heads nodding, Randy, so I think we're on the same page with this now. And
See,
Tina has
they all fallen
confirmed.
asleep.
I didn't catch that. What was that?
I said their heads are either nodding because they agree or they're falling asleep. I'm not sure which one it is.
Tina confirmed when she walked in, I think, that she thinks that's where the commissioners will land anyway. So, okay, so I think we're to the end of our agenda. And Janine, I think your question was answered, that the task force is going to recommend that we wait to pay anyone until we've got it all buttoned up, right? So then before we talk next meeting date and time, let's run through quickly the assignments. We're going to have Janine and Tina and Deidre working on an email that we can all use to send out to the various agencies, alerting them of their opportunity. That will include an attachment of this sub-recipient report. I would say that when that's ready, circulated among the task force, we'll shape it a bit, and then we can execute on that. Randy's already sent us his recommendation in terms of the organization of that with a chart. Let's accept that, and if we need to tweak it, let's make those tweaks by email recommendation. We're going to hire 2 people. One is a consulting firm. If I understood right, an RFP is going to have to be posted for that. Yes or no, Tina?
Yes.
And will you be able to help us get that done, so to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. And an advertisement, Janine, for the administrative assistant with the information that Matt's going to circulate in the minutes about that motion. Will you be able to help us post there in the proper places? Okay.
You can do
And-
that on the.
And then is there, does the county, I'm not familiar with the requirements that the county has in play for hiring.
Well, this is a little bit outside the scope of the county itself, but not necessarily. I mean, generally speaking, the county would advertise and be able to hire. And I think we would probably just run that through as, it would be as a part-time temporary position.
Right, that's what we talked about. And so is the, how do I put this? Can I work with you all in order to kind of pinpoint where we're at, then bring it to the task force to finish it up type of thing? Is that an appropriate way to do this?
Because I'm assuming, payroll's gonna be running you guys.
Right, and so then it would be just the reimbursement. through the
Right.
Task force.
Right.
Where to start that. Yeah.
Okay,
And we're thinking of a flat fee.
Oh,
Well, yeah, I guess that's kind of what I don't know. That may be a little bit different. Doing a flash fee is more of a contract labor type of situation.
it is.
So that's a little bit different.
is that okay? Does
Would
the,
that change
does
the?
does the DOL allow for that in this circumstance?
I'm sure it does. I'm not sure if that maybe is the best, just because you don't know how much time's gonna be involved. You can't really tell someone at this point how much time's gonna be involved, so I almost wonder if it would be better to do it as an hourly position and then
That's
pay by the
my
hour.
reservation with the flat fee.
So-
Recommended it.
So when we had that discussion earlier, we went back and forth on that. Where we landed was that we would recommend it at 20 hours a week.
Okay. Okay.
That
well,
was, and Deidre's thought was on that, she's not on anymore, but her thought was on that in her survey of all of this, it's going to be a big job as compared to what we were originally, as we were discussing, talking about it being. And
Okay.
she wanted us to err on the side of making sure we create the margin that we might need rather than err on the side of setting ourselves up to be frustrated that we're not getting the administrative support that we need.
Okay.
I think she had all of us and the two of you in mind when she was saying that.
So that's just a little slightly different process, and that would be, instead of being paid through payroll, that would go through accounts payable. It would be more of a 1099 kind of situation.
Contract labor. Wouldn't have to necessarily change the way we advertise it so much, but the way we structure it when we pay it, is that what you mean?
It would be a little bit of a change of how we advertise it too, because it's different, but it's doable.
Okay. Okay.
Would you
Great.
pay it before monthly or after? If it's a flat fee thing.
I would think that no one's going to accept that without at least a monthly paycheck.
That's what I was thinking.
But contract labor can be paid monthly. It doesn't have to be paid in a flat fee, I don't think. Well, I mean, I know it doesn't. We do it all the time. You disagree with that,
No.
Tina? Okay. What are you thinking?
Rusty,
Yes.
I was still here. I couldn't get my stuff to work. But you could do a salary of $250 a week, and
$250 a week in a salary.
it's about 20 weeks. It comes out to $5,000.
Gotcha. Tina, I can tell you're hesitating. Go ahead, put it on the table.
No, I'm really not. I'm not even in here.
You are our concern.
We
right
respect
now.
your expertise.
That's right.
She's probably thinking of the same thing I've got, and that is that we're paying them a flat fee with absolutely no idea how long it's gonna take them to do this job.
Yeah, I would really feel better if you would just say, we anticipate this much time per week, and do it as an hourly, do it through payroll, withhold the taxes, and it just feels cleaner to me.
And my 3 months in HR telecommunications company is telling me this isn't quite right. And she does it a lot more than I do.
Does that require a benefit? Do you guys?
No,
Okay. At that
this would
point.
not, since this is a temporary position and
We don't have to worry
it's
about it.
20 hours
That's
a
what I was
week,
worried
it is
about, what you
not,
might have to
there would
do.
be no papers, there would be no benefits. So
Okay.
just FICA and such, and
Can-
Medicare.
Can we accept that as a friendly amendment to the motion that Matt's got recorded?
You want to amend it to, Hourly
$12 an hour, up to 20 hours a week. Starting, I don't know how you say it, but as soon as possible. Through January 1st, 2021.
Yesterday too.
Okay, great. What about our next meeting date and time?
Rusty, before we jump onto that,
Yes,
one thing that back to the assistant, whoever he or she is, they're going to need some equipment to work with, so we probably need to purchase a computer for them to use.
that's a good point.
I would think that maybe we would have some resources that might be
That's kind of
available.
what I'm.
I would hate to just purchase.
Yeah.
I have one you can combine.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll let you know.
that's a good point, Randy, but it sounds like that we have some hardware available from some of our organizations and probably have more than one IT department ready to assist.
Okay, yeah, I'm still good with a Big Chief tablet and number 2 pencil.
I agree.
Okay, thanks, Randy, though. I'm glad you pointed that out. I would just say before we move on to our next meeting date and time, if any of you have people in your mind that you're like, man, this person would have the margin right now and they'd be good at this, boy, let's get out there and tell them about this, right? Because
Okay.
you might not catch an ad in a newspaper or wherever we're going to post it.
I think we should actively look for people.
Yes.
We will advertise, but if there are any, I think that's secondary.
Do you
Yeah.
have any part-time in the county that county courthouse that would want to do this?
As of right now, we're pretty short.
Okay, I was just gonna, I mean, you know, some
Yeah.
people have part-time, but
Hmm.
you could add to their,
Pretty much everyone's
Well,
gone to full
I'll
time.
put some thought
I've
into
got
it.
a couple of ideas. but
Okay.
I don't know that it's gonna pan out.
Well, let's go ahead and get on. Feel free to recruit them
Okay.
to apply, you know? Okay, great. I don't know about you all, but I'm good with, I would be good with next Friday at 2:00 again. I'm just putting that out there as an option because I know it works in my calendar, but I'm open to thinking through other options too. So whatever you guys think,
I'm good.
Do you want those applications to come through the county clerk's office?
please.
Aaron might hate me for saying yes, because I think he takes Fridays off. So, but yeah, I think that would be,
Does earlier in the day work for anybody? I mean, is that
Does for me.
Friday afternoons can sometimes be a struggle for me, but I'll make it work.
I'd-
That's what we need to do.
I'd love to change it to Friday morning at 10 because then we kind of have that hard stop at noon.
Now
It
you're
feels
getting
that
into
way.
my coffee time.
Have coffee here.
2 o'clock Friday.
I'm good with 10 on, in fact, what if we just put that as a standing meeting right now,
Yes.
Fridays at 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay,
and you'll email that.
I will email that to the group as a calendar invite. And I'm gonna need some support on how we create the public link for that. Do I need to worry about that or is somebody here gonna take care of that?
The public link has already been created for that.
Okay,
It's the same link that you all have. And we did post Janine's agenda with the correct public link on the county website. And I also posted it on the county clerk's Facebook today
awesome.
about this is going on. So that's your public notice.
So that'll be ongoing,
It will be.
Fridays at 10 a.m.
And I think that since it's going to be an ongoing meeting, that we could potentially just put a small ad in the paper that says the Spark Task Force will be,
Great.
and publishing it in the paper, that kind of covers you.
Good, thanks, Tina. So final thing, and then we'll convene. What about how we're going to meet? Like, I'm comfortable with whatever. I have a preference, but I can make anything work. Zoom, GoToMeeting. My preference is that for those who are open to it, that we would gather just like we have here. And then for those who need to or want to, they can join virtually. So that's a preference, but maybe that's not what others are thinking we'll do.
I'm fine.
So speak
That
up.
works well.
Works great.
I like that. Even though I wasn't here, I was on the meeting the whole time on Zoom. That worked
Okay.
well.
So the county officials have no problem with us continuing to come in here at 10 o'clock on Friday mornings, face to face for a certain number of us.
Well, I think that's fine.
Looks open.
Now,
Payday will
on
be-
the 31st, we have a
Oh,
payday
payday.
meeting. Commissioners will be meeting on that day. So
What time is that meeting?
9,
Okay,
and that'll be potentially be payday and other business. So the room won't be available. And actually, the GoToMeeting account won't be available.
we'll have to talk, on the 24th, we'll talk about how we're going to alter that particular meeting, okay?
Might be.
Because also on the 31st at 10 a.m. is the Kansas Association of Counties webinar, is another webinar at 10 a.m.
Okay, so Randy's indicated another conflict there on the 31st, so we'll have to alter that in some way. We'll figure that out. In the meantime, between now and next Thursday-ish, please send me your agenda items. I'll be already this afternoon. I'll be crafting an agenda, and I'd like to get it out by the morning of Thursday prior to the meeting. Are we good?
Great.
All right.
It's good. Thanks.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Tina, you'll send out that resolution.
I've got it. I don't know how you didn't get it.
I don't
Aaron, see, I think
See, Aaron, it went to
Aaron's
Aaron.
Yeah,
And Aaron has it.
I got it forwarded.
Aaron's supposed to send it to you.
From all in one.
You sent it to me.
Okay, Aaron.
Why don't you send it to me? So I can make sure.
Anthony sent it to
Catch
me.
a
I've already complained to Lloyd. I
Yeah,
can't find his email on my phone.